I do think it's interesting from just coming from a game idea standpoint is looking at memes, because if you think about it, it's like a meme is basically a proven high concept. There's the question of like what, like you're saying, what exactly it is talking about, and then again how you translate it. But
Butterscotch shenanigans. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 559 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the weekly podcast for indie game developers. I'm Seth and I'm the games programmer.
Hi, I'm Adam, the miscellaneous programmer.
I'm Sam, and I'm an artist.
And we are Butterscotch Shenanigans. Today is January 27th, 2020. Quick! This is a doubleheader episode. We just came off recording the last one, so nothing has happened in the intervening time. Except for I changed my shirt.
Oh.
Nice. I was getting sweaty. You know how it is.
Okay. Not for the new episode, but just...
As you get the coffee sweats, you got too jittery. So we're just going to go into questions from our listeners, and we'll just burn through them. And then once we get tired, we'll stop.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Where do these questions come from?
These questions come from podcast.bscotch.net, where people can ask questions and also upvote. And we've been answering them a lot less lately, but every now and then we dip into the bag like today.
So sometimes we get them from the Discord, so you can hop on there and go to the podcast channel, ask questions. And sometimes we get them from YouTube comments on the YouTube version of this podcast. In case you didn't know, you can also get this in a regular, podcast audio only.
Yeah, like a weirdo. So first question comes from John Flavin, which kind of relates to what we were talking about last episode. So we may retread a little bit of ground, but let's try. We'll do what we can. John Flavin asks, how many dudes strikes me as having a strong pitch that people grok very quickly, but being based on the gorilla fighting meme, it has a limited shelf life. If people can't play it right now, they may be uninterested later. Do you agree with this take? And does that put pressure on you to release ASAP? Or do you feel like the game you've built so far has legs beyond its meme origins?
So this is actually fun, because we were talking about this also before the last episode, of the question of like, when we're making a game for this purpose. So go back and listen to the last episode. Don't have to retread that about like the marketability question and like how we're approaching, how many users and all that kind of stuff. But I think so that we can focus on just this question at hand, which is like, is this specific idea, does it have a shelf life?
Is it going to get tired?
Is it going to get
tired? We think no. And the reason is the theme for the GMTK Jam, which was the game jam we made, how many dudes for? The theme was loop. So we're like, well, every game has a loop, so that's just kind of whatever. So when we were coming up with our idea for the pitch, we started to ask, what ideas or conversations keep coming back, keep looping around, right? Like what types of things do we keep seeing people just bring up over and over again over the years that is just always an interesting and fun thing for people to think about or talk about? And that was how we landed on the how many dudes would it take to beat up a gorilla, because there's no answer to that question. It's because it's all about assumptions. It's about, prep time. Who are the dudes? Are they going single file? Can they sneak up on the gorilla? It creates debate, and it's not like that meme happened at the time we made the game. It has just always been an ongoing thing for years.
Oh yeah, even also, from the horse-sized duck versus 100 duck-sized horses question, right? There's variants,
different versions of it just pop up at random.
That are always popping up. So we figured,
and also we keep seeing videos of like two idiots doing a podcast, and then one of them is like, I bet I could fight a whatever, right?
Yep.
And they like start yelling at each other about it, right? Like that concept of especially like dudes like being overconfident about taking an animal.
Yeah.
In the very nature, like that concept has been around. People used to like try to fight anything. They would try to fight literally anything for sport.
This is what gladiator matches were. It's like, can a dude take on a lion? No.
Yeah. So I will say, like, when we talk about it, we refer to it as like how many dudes it take to fight a gorilla meme is how we talk about it. But that's mostly because that's like the digestible way to like convey that concept.
The whole thing.
And because otherwise it's like, it's a more nebulous concept that I think even like the meme part of it, of like the dudes versus gorilla thing, I think that'll just be around forever for the same reasons. It's not about a moment in time. It's about a way people approach the world, right?
Right.
And so that'll just kind of work. But also, it is more general than that too. So even if it was that, I think our actual like marketing stuff doesn't really focus on that, right? It's kind of how we talk about the game and like the overall pitch for it, so people understand what it is. And players don't care about that anyway. That's for press to understand what's happening. That's for like, that's basically for getting people to understand like what's going on at all.
Well, again, I think it's just the entry point, but it's not because
It's
there's
not what it is.
Yeah, it's not just that one thing. It's basically what you're getting at. So it's like it's an entry point that then says, oh, there's a lot of options here. How many does it take to fight a unicorn? How many does it take to fight a bunch of feral hogs? You know, it's like as soon as you ask the one question, people naturally just start asking other questions, and they're ones that we can also put into the game.
Yeah, but then the
And
game
so-
also isn't really about that. It turns out, right? The game isn't trying to answer the question. Like again, that's how we talk about it because that's the part that like people understand, right? But that's really kind of a Trojan horse to get you into the game because when you're in the game, people are talking strategy about like, ooh, how many skills do like? They're not thinking at all like, how does this resemble the real life question of like, oh, you know, like that's gone, it's not there.
Yeah,
and
the
I think
game
there
does
are
not
some games.
it doesn't seek to answer the question. It
No.
seeks to explore the question.
Yes, it's all about
Well,
yeah.
to explore adjacent questions that are shaped the same.
Right.
Mhm, mhm.
But
It's
yeah, but I
what-
think there is a game that we saw that released that is literally the like dudes versus gorilla meme.
Yeah,
I think
it's like
a
an Unreal
multiplayer
game.
It's like 3D, and like you can play like I think it's multiplayer where like you're playing as dudes or like one person's a gorilla or something. I can't remember. It's on a beach.
I
It's
thought it was
one-
just, yeah, I think
thought
it's just
it
a
was like a quick-
gorilla. I think it's single player. It's just a gorilla, and then there's just a bunch of dudes.
Oh yeah, that's
coming
what it
at
is.
you
Yeah, and
you
there's a
punch
wave
the
of
shit out
dudes.
them.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, and it's like it's a quick little like $7 game kind of a thing. And like that kind of a thing is one of those like that would be very funny in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Once you've
Staying
seen
power,
it,
eh.
once you've done it, there's no staying power there as a game, right? And so I think that's where I think this particular meme that we're using, I think,
Mhm.
is more universal than it is specific. It's already had longevity, and the game isn't actually about that. Because if it was exactly about that, I agree, it would be.
Once the question's
would have no
answered,
staying
you're
power.
done. You know.
Exactly. Yeah, that's good.
yeah,
It's good
well,
lesson. You can't answer the question fully with the game if you're going to do it. You know, with the style, right? You
Yeah.
have to make it so it just opens up more questions.
We got
on the-
you answer it like a lawyer. The answer is it depends.
It depends.
Yeah. Well, I think this also kind of comes into the idea of trying to ask questions in one layer deeper, which is there's a meme. There's a meme about 100. Like, could 100 guys take on a gorilla? You got to go one layer deeper and say, why is this a
Yep.
popular question? Like, what is it about this? And is the answer to that why question fundamental enough that it'll just kind of always be interesting? You know, because memes spread for a reason. People spread memes around because there's some nugget of something in there that
Mhm.
kind of like speaks to something people already care about or are already interested in, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can try to figure out what that thing is, so that whatever you're making isn't just about the meme at a surface level, but it's about like the underlying desire
the
that's
interesting
driving
concept.
the meme.
Yeah.
You know,
Or I think it's fundamentally, it's like we as people know that we're like the reason that we are so powerful on this planet that we live on is because of our technology. That's why we know that like animals.
we ain't got claws. We
Yeah,
don't
we
got
got-
fangs.
Yeah.
you know?
And so there's that human versus like nature thing that we like so many the stories we grew up with are about that, are just the very world we live in is about that, right? So that's already there, and that's coupled with kind of the power fantasy of superhero stuff, because it's like you want to. It would be cool if you were so strong you could fight a gorilla, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's not even about fighting a gorilla. It's about your actually being that strong or having some kind of skill you could, or being smart enough. Like, you know, right. So it's about occupying that fantasy of like, yeah, I'm like person that I am, just a little flesh bag living in a hostile world.
But I know things.
Any
in a
animal
way.
could take me.
Yep.
Yeah. But given the right set of circumstances, if I was really strong, if I had access to fireballs, whatever, right? Like that changes. And now, yeah. So I think it's getting at something that's just a little bit more fundamental.
And it's also the power scaling debates people always have, of like, could this beat this? other thing. Everybody always wants to see a fight. Everybody always wants to like know whether their favorite thing can beat this other thing. That's what being a football fan is all about. That's what, it's just like pitting things against each other and seeing what wins. Yeah. So I think it's a good question in the sense that, yeah, if you focus on the surface level, like what is this current like popular thing, and then just do that.
Yeah.
Then yeah, it'll have a shelf life. So you got to go a little deeper, and you got to explore the space on a more fundamental level.
I do think it's interesting from just coming from a game idea standpoint is looking at memes, because if you think about it, it's like a meme is basically a proven high concept. There's the question of like what, like you're saying, what exactly it is talking about, and then again how you translate it. But you could, I mean, really, memes are like a great mining material. I don't mean like 6-7. I don't mean like shit like that. I mean like memes that
Which
have
is also a
more,
meme.
It is a meme, yeah, exactly. But I'm saying things that where it's like you're not
things
using
that
it in
speak to something, right?
Yeah,
because even
and they
like
keep coming up again, right?
Yeah, even like
That's
the 6-7 meme speaks to something, not in its specifics, but in its generality. It's a kind of like particular kind of nonsense, right? That is a form of expression and like community building and like have people being in the know, right? So that's actually what it's about. It's not
It
like
speaks
no
to the
meme is about
desire
the
of
thing, right?
young people to create an in-group that separates them from
exactly.
the rest of
every
society,
generation
which
has
always
done
happens.
this. Yeah, every time, and like some, I'm sure we could find something for us millennials if we go back and we're like, I forgot about that, but that one is just as dumb as this, right? Like,
Oh yeah, I mean, back in our
definitely.
high school days, there was always people yelling like the Lil Jon, like yeah,
Oh yeah,
like there was always something.
Or the Budweiser frogs, like everybody was doing. Like so there were like things that made no sense that were dumb, but like we were all getting to be dumb together, right? And
the
so
adults rolled their eyes.
Yeah,
and,
so to that point, like you can't make a game about 6-7. Not possible.
Right.
Or I mean, you could if you literally did it, because that's already gone from everything, right? But if you were able to make a game so fast that you could like do it, get it out, and like capture that, it actually could have been very successful for the 3 weeks that mattered, right? But it could have been very successful for those 3 weeks. But the more reasonable thing to do is to be like, what about that spoke to kids, right? And can I capture that in a game, right?
Yeah, and that's a much harder thing to make a game about, because again, it's just the desire of young people to carve out space for themselves in the world. Which
we start asking questions like, okay, what form could that take? I mean, I don't know. You got nothing there, you know what I mean? So I think it's better to find something that has a little more concrete elements to it.
That's just what Roblox is.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. But I do think
honestly, Roblox's 6-7 manifest as a game concept.
Yeah, it's the underlying driving force behind the 6-7 meme is the same driving force that causes people to play Roblox.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Which isn't a judgment or a commentary about whether that's good or bad. I think it's just what it is.
Nature. But that also means, again, like if you're thinking about this, go back to last episode too, right? But if you think about this from like where's the niche here? Like, is it being like Roblox owns the 6-7 meme space, right? And any related meme, right? That are based on the same fundamental principle. That's already done. You're not going to move into that space, so you got to find something else. Figure out the underlying principle, and then figure out like, how do I? And I think this is a good question, because the question is like, if like the thing that we had chosen was a little less durable, because as Sam was saying, like that this concept in its shape is like keeps coming up over and over again. There are entire subreddits about it, right? Like it's just there always. But if it was something where like there was something very funny and memey like in the moment that we knew was going to go away, but it spoke to some underlying thing, right? By the time you make a game, that top thing is gone probably, right? And can you find a way to connect people to the more underlying thing? It's like the same with the 6-7 thing, right? Like once that part is gone, even if you built a game that captures that concept that actually people are expressing, how do you get them to know? Because they're not going to care about it if you talk about it, that old surface level thing, right? And I think that's a really important challenge.
I guess it's basically, you don't want brand new memes. You want to pick a meme that you've, and I mean that in the high level, what a meme actually is, sense, not just like the stupid stuff on the internet, but just like the really high level concepts that you see just repeated constantly, and then ask the question of like, which one of these has not been translated successfully?
Yeah,
into
we're
a
talking
video
about
game.
meme in the original sense,
In
not
the
in
Richard
the-
Dawkins sense.
The Richard Dawkins.
Yeah,
sense,
not in there's a
Yeah.
picture on the internet that's silly that
Correct.
everybody sees and then it's gone.
Yeah, and for reference, like I think, isn't it true that Richard Dawkins
I think
coined
it
it?
was, yeah, it's like
coined the
2008, right?
term?
Yep.
2000.
Yeah, and his idea was basically comparing information to genetics, which is that a gene is biological material that sets out to copy itself.
Yeah, and what makes a gene successful, or I guess a gene is successful if you find lots of copies of it, right? So basically
Can it
what that
replicate?
means is that your whole genetic apparatus is geared towards reproducing copies of itself, right? And so
Right.
that's what we call genetics. And so he's like, there's a parallel concept for culture,
For information.
for information that people are sharing that isn't embedded like in our genes, right? But that is how our brains work and how we hold on to information. It's stuff that, like, the stuff that has survived is the stuff that's really good at replicating. And so he referred to those as memes. It's like a mimetic, right?
Yeah.
A mimetic unit that is
It's
shared.
information that uses humans as a host to copy itself
Exactly,
and transfer itself
Yeah.
from person to person.
So-
And it evolves and mutates,
Yep.
as it spreads, just like
Which, as you're
genes do.
describing this, would be a sick game.
Yeah.
You know?
What it could be, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty sick.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's always been there. And so if you think, like Sam was saying, if you think about, like, what is it about this that makes people spread it? Like, what is it about this meme that drives it through the
Yeah, and, you
population?
and I think,
makes it copy
as-
itself.
yeah. And as Sam was saying, I think internet memes are a good thing to go, like, dig through to then try to figure out
yeah.
what the underlying, like,
There's ammo in all there.
actual,
Great.
like, information meme is that lives underneath it,
Mhm.
and then go for that thing, whatever that
Yeah.
thing is.
All right, next question comes from Ronnie the Bear, who asks, "How is your game, How Many Dudes, handling so many dudes? I was delighted and stunned when my couple dozen dudes faced off against a full 700 toddlers. Are you using something like ECS, Entity Component System, to efficiently wrangle all them dudes?"
Yeah, what are you doing, Seth? What's going on there?
So the thing about me is, I'm not a computer scientist. I didn't take the algorithms class. I don't know all your fancy words like entity component system.
Mhm.
I'm just working on things as they come up. So we just do a lot of profiling, which is just make it work. If it runs well, great, we're done.
Don't need to do any more engineering.
Problem solved. If we hit a point where the game starts to suffer, where the performance starts to drop, which is especially an issue on mobile, right?
Mhm.
Because we do want to get this game out to mobile, and so I've been playing it a lot on my Galaxy Tab, but that's a high-end device. So I'm like, okay, if I'm hitting any kind of performance problems, even at the very late game when I have 150 dudes versus 1,000 geese or something, if I'm hitting performance problems there, we still have a ways to go. So for that, it's literally just so GameMaker has this feature in its debugger, which is a profiler, which allows us to run the game, and it documents how much CPU is being used by all the different processes. And so,
and different programming languages and environments and engines will have concepts
Some
like this,
equivalent
right?
thing.
Or they better if they're any
yeah.
good, because
and it's particularly important for games because, if you click on a menu on a website, and it takes a tenth of a second for it to pop open, it'll feel a little bit clunky, but you're not going to be like, I'm done. I'm not using this fucking website anymore. You went to that website for a reason. And so you click the drop down.
Although you say that,
Yeah.
but studies have found that every 100 milliseconds in response time on websites,
That is fair. There is a funnel. There is a funnel.
Yeah, it still has an effect, but in video games it can be significantly more pronounced. But especially because the range of devices that people are on is so wide, in particular if you're going to hit mobile.
And so a lot of it comes down to essentially finding ways to capture scenarios that cause performance issues, replicate those scenarios, run a profiler on them, find places where we have operations that are consuming too much CPU, and then figure out some way to trim those down.
Well, there's also an earlier step too, right? Which is to say, we're going to actually say like about 1,000 things is the max we want to try to deal with. Because otherwise you could keep playing this game forever and try to keep optimizing it. And now you got 5,000 units, now you got 10,000 units or whatever.
it's really important.
And you're
with
Jevons
games.
paradoxing your way through, where you keep
Yeah.
on making it more efficient and adding more dudes, right?
In the itch version, back when it was still just the web build we had for the jam, you would fight like
3,000 or
10,000
4,000
toddlers,
Yeah.
which I still love. Like it's one of those things where, like I still, of course, I will always want there to be able to get into that like just absurd range.
Because it would be very
things.
fun if we
Because
could.
it's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, we basically kept it like 1,000 because we found that above that was where it started to kind of get wobbly, and then you have to at some point accept
tell
constraints.
what's happening. You know, like
But honestly,
different
it's like what really starts to bog the game down at the end is the relics.
Yeah.
Because
you're
you'll
all
end up
mutating everything that's happening all the time.
Yeah, you'll end up with like 80 relics, and they're all hooked to all these different triggers of like when a dude deals damage, this happens. When a dude gets hit, this happens. When a dude gets knocked out, these 5 things happen, you know. And if you have 150 dudes, and then you've got like necromancers that are summoning 700 skeletons, which also happens, and then you're fighting 1,000 geese, or in some cases 800 zombie bears, where each zombie bear cleaves 12 dudes per attack, right? Then
there's a lot going on.
There's so much shit happening with those relics.
Yeah.
That's actually where the real issues start to come in.
Yes, it is like we selected a reasonable goal that got us that, because we want it, like Sam said, we want it to look like you're fighting just a fuckload of things, right? So we find some level where like, okay, that feels like a fuckload. Yeah, it would be cool if we could have 10 times more than that even, but like we'll
optimize around this point first.
Yeah, optimize around that. If we can, and if we come up with something magic, like because there are games like We Are Billions and a few other ones that their whole thing is volume, and they've had to come up with very smart, very interesting, very weird optimization mechanisms to do that kind of thing. And that's the whole point. So like those kinds of things can exist depending on everything else that's going on.
But our game isn't about like 1,000 weak normal dudes with nothing interesting going on. It's about you end up, you choose one dude at a time. Every round you add a new dude to your team. You're building up this team, and each member of that team is becoming progressively more ludicrously powerful because of these relics. So it's funny because we have behind the scenes we have a compounding growth curve for enemy matchups. So it grows at a rate of is like 2.6% per round. So every round we have a linear curve where every round it goes up linearly, but then we also attach a geometric growth curve on top of that, where it's growing at that 2.6% rate. But it hits a point where when you get to round 100, because of the relics that your dudes are gaining, that compounding curve
doesn't cut it.
Just does not cut it, and we have to start really throwing crazy shit at you. So it's kind of the equivalent where what we were looking at. It's like I think the round like 114 boss fight is similar to, if we were just following that same curve, it's similar to what a normal fight would be at about round like 200 on that curve, right? And so like things just kind of really
well,
just
and you
go
actually can see that
crazy
early
and fly off the
analytics
rail.
too, right? Because like you see, if you look at the analytics about like how often people basically beat each subsequent level, right?
Yeah.
You see like a pretty good like general rate of fall off starting from level 2, basically. Right?
Yeah, just round by round. It's just
round by round, and then you have like
some
little
people
drops when you hit
lose
the
round
boss
by round.
levels, and then you hit the last 2 runs of like 60 to 80 and 80 to 100, and they're basically flat.
Yeah,
And-
it's
right.
people only like once people beat round 60, then the rate of loss round by round suddenly plummets, and then
Almost
it's like
zero. It's really low.
it's a trickle, and then round 80 is another big filter.
It's a funnel, and then it's flat again, right?
And then
And
it's
so,
flat.
you can already see, like, you can see how the curve works well at the beginning, but as the relics pile up and stuff, the curve
just
goes
get
away,
control.
and then the curve comes back in the boss rounds because we have to
Because we
end
made
the
it come
game
back.
somehow, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, like,
Yeah.
if not for the relics, we probably could do 500 dudes versus 10,000 enemies at this point because of the optimizations. And a lot of the optimizations just come down to basic stuff. Like, for example, like, you may notice you play how many dudes that characters don't sit on top of each other. They kind of separate out, they kind of like separate out in a crowd. And a big part of that is then like, okay, how do you make it so that if you've got, 150 dudes, how does each dude keep an awareness of where the rest of the dudes are so that they can kind of separate themselves out? And the answer is just
if each dude just know where every other dude is, then that's n
expensive.
times. Yeah, it's a
combinatorial problem. If each dude is checking distance for each other dude, then as you add each additional dude, you have an exponential runaway computation problem.
Or a factorial even. I don't know. It's whatever it is, it's horrible.
Bad.
Yeah. And so for that, it's just all about shortcuts. It's like, all right, what can you get away with, you know? And so it's like, all right, at certain intervals, the dudes will check distance with every other dude. And then they'll just make a list of which dudes are close enough to me to care about for the next like half a second.
Yep.
And then during that half second, they just only check those dudes, and then they refresh their list after a while, right?
And you could do the same thing. You could do like the concept with like a grid, right? So that dudes know what grid they're in, and like other dudes in the same grid can. There's like all kinds of strategies you can take to optimize it, right? But I think actually this actually goes back to the last question. This because you made the point like if we didn't have any of that stuff, if it was just like a jillion dudes versus a bunch of gorillas or whatever, right? Then we could probably have thousands or tens of thousands or whatever, right?
It'd be a very different game.
But it goes back to the thing is like that's not interesting actually. Like the question there of like, can 1,000 dudes beat a gorilla, right? It isn't actually that interesting. It's interesting to theorize about, but it's not interesting to get an answer to.
Yeah.
Right. And so without all the other stuff, yeah, exactly. Without all the other stuff that makes it so that there's no longer like the question no longer exists actually. Because now the question is under this really weird set of circumstances with insane stuff happening, can we win, right? Yeah, you need all that insane stuff because again, it's not about the numbers actually. It's about being able to theory craft and like be like, oh, could this do it or whatever? And you can't do that with just like a regular dude. It doesn't.
But it's funny because we framed the game as how many dudes because that's a relatable question. The actual question is how could these dudes beat this thing, right? It's like how could a team of samurai, necromancers, knights, medics, and zombies beat 50 horse-sized ducks, 3 zombie bears, and 200 pandas, you know? Because you have to figure out the answer to that question when you get there once you've built that team. And you may win or you may lose based on all the choices that you've made, you know? And that's just what makes it interesting. It has nothing to do with how many. It's about like all the decisions that you made.
But because it's called how many dudes, it has to feel like there's a lot of dudes, right?
There's a lot.
So you still have to satisfy the core like concept to make sure
that was our goal. Yeah, explicitly we're like if we want to get up to at least 100 dudes was actually one of the internal markers for like satisfying the premise in the first place.
And this is always something that is driven by Sam because he doesn't have to optimize the game, so he's always like, we need more dudes. So I'm like, huh. I'm like, fine, we'll go a little bit more. He's like, more dudes.
more. Seth got some really good optimizations in, but yesterday, a couple days ago,
Yep.
I trimmed about 25% of the CPU out for the very late game matches. Every now and then there'll be some kind of like an underlying game system that like I know is sucking up a lot of juice, but it's so entrenched in the game code that I'm like, I try to go as long as possible without touching it. But we also try to use sort of like the DevOps bottleneck approach, which is in DevOps, it's that there's always a bottleneck. There's always one bottleneck. There's always one most important thing that if you leave that thing alone, no other changes will really make a dent or help you at all. And so with that profiler, you can pretty easily find in GameMaker.
Where is that?
Yeah, it's like, all right, what is the thing that's sucking up the most juice? And every now and then you don't like the answer to that question because then you got to go through
that one thing sucks to fix.
That one thing, So that was like my whole day yesterday was ripping out that core game system that had been there since day one of the jam, basically, and redoing it and then plugging everything back into it. Which those kinds of operations are a little spooky, but it worked. Our next question comes from Pure Nix, who says, "What does the meal plan of a successful game dev look like?" Dead serious question. One can be chasing after the higher level goals, but tripping over the foundational pieces of staying energized and focused.
We're all going to have very different answers to this.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with the premise. I think it's like,
I just want to say thanks for considering us successful game devs. I appreciate it.
Big words.
I appreciate that. That's very
big words.
It depends on your definition, but I appreciate it.
I think just going to the core, like the energy aspect of it, I will say that what's been funny is that having these 2 kids, who are still tots and my sleep just being absolutely wrecked has, in a weird way, been a funneling force on the creative energy side, because it basically means that I can't brute force things, right? In the way I don't have infinite time to just be like, let me just spend an extra X hours on this, on the weekend or whatever else, because I do not have the time, nor do I have the energy.
There is no weekend. What is a weekend?
Exactly. And so it's like,
And also,
it
like,
has
all
the-
that lack of sleep gives you like an extra touch of insanity too. Just to like,
yeah, you're just a little on
you're just
edge.
on the edge of.
But I think it's interesting just from an energy standpoint, how that creative constraint has been there. When we started how many dudes, I was like, I don't want to do anything like how big Crashlands was, because it was so much work. And on top of that, had 2 kids during the creation of the game. And oh my God, by the end of it, I was just like,
Well, I also pushed for this too because I was like, working with Spine, fuck Spine.
Spine's great.
Here's the thing
But
about
it's just another
Spine.
piece. It's just another
Spine
piece.
is great. Spine's an amazing piece of software. On the other hand, fuck Spine. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I'm with you. I
I'm,
agree.
I'm tired. It's like you can
I'm
do
tired.
so much with it, but then you got to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that stuff.
Yeah.
That's too much
So
stuff.
that's my only piece on the energy thing. Otherwise, I eat popcorn at night. That's like, I don't know. I don't have a meal plan. I eat whatever either my wife makes or mother-in-law, she's cooking for the day with the kids. So I just kind of, eat fruits, veggies. I have a very good diet, but my whole shtick orients basically around the enjoyable part of my food, which is my nighttime popcorn. Because I get my joy where I can, because I got no energy. That's
We
the
still have to have a
reality.
popcorn off to do something, because I also love my evening popcorn.
I feel like everybody wins in a popcorn off.
It's true.
Yeah, it's like a cookie swap, where like
Mhm.
because cookie swap isn't really about a competition. It's just about
It's about
we all
having
make
eating cookies. Yep.
Yeah, we all eat cookies. Yeah. I feel like it's gotta because a popcorn swap just feels.
It feels right.
Well, we need a potluck. There's a potluck. But,
there you go.
But everybody brings
Popcorns?
popcorn. Everybody brings their own homegrown
Sign
popcorn.
me up. Yeah, I eat very
Please.
well. In terms of like balanced diet, whether I want to be doing that is a different question.
Yeah, I've my relationship to food and then work has varied over time. Also, the ADHD component is very significant. But I think the biggest factor for me is the health stuff related to it. It's not really about. I don't think about it this in terms of energy. Like I've never had a relationship with food where I'm like, ooh, now I feel more like awake or energized after eating, or more tired, unless I eat a big pile of something, But I mostly think about it from maintaining my system standpoint, because I've now had enough stuff happen that hits my guts and stuff, because I had a surgery to fix my gastric reflux, and so my stomach has been pulled through the little hole that goes between your diaphragm, and like, so because your stomach is underneath your diaphragm, there's a hole that comes out.
And the
with your
stomach's tied
esophagus.
knots. Okay.
Yeah,
So
we all know
they
what a
kinda-
Nissen funduplication is.
It's called a
Nissen
disenfundiplication. They kind of pull the stomach through the hole, like where your esophagus is coming out, and they wrap it around your esophagus and staple your stomach to itself on the other side, right? So that your stomach is now because your stomach's just a big muscle, right? So now your stomach squeezes your esophagus to close it. Because my problem was that there's a little sphincter that's supposed to live there. I mean, it does live there, but that lives there. That basically makes it so that your stomach just isn't open to your esophagus. You're not just like every time you
Shooting
lean
acid
over,
up.
you're not just shooting stomach.
There's a
acid out of your
hatch
face.
that needs to be
Yeah,
closed.
there's a hatch, but my hatch has never worked my whole life, but it didn't become a problem until I was like basically like 12 years ago or something. Started to get gastric reflux all the time, and it was untreatable. Like there was nothing I could do about it, so I finally got surgery. Okay, so I got that done, and that kind of like before that, food I don't give a shit. I'll just eat whatever, any volume, mostly candy. It's all fine, right?
The 20s.
There were 20s before that surgery, and then post that surgery, it like gave me some like intermittent IBS kinds of stuff that's like food sensitive, and it made us have like weird blood sugar things where my blood sugar will just like really drop if I'm not paying attention to it, to the point where like I could pass out, so it's like so that has like fundamentally changed my relationship to
Yeah, you gotta be more
food,
careful.
right?
Mhm.
And then there's also the ADHD parts and that kind of stuff. So historically, I would just be like, food is fuel. I got work to do. Just inhale something, get some glucose in particular in my body, and then work. And now today, it's like, okay, that's a thing that has to be done to a sufficient point of nutrition, especially with fiber. I'm so amused at like my past self watching Metamucil commercials and being like, why is everybody talking about shitting all the
Mhm.
time, you know.
Mhm.
Like,
All these old
why
people
do
talking
old
about
people
fiber.
care so much about fiber? And now I'm like almost 40, and like I know why we care so much
Mhm.
about how much fiber. We're eating. So I'm like, okay,
When
gotta
your
get enough
guts
fiber,
aren't
gotta get
working
enough
that well, it's kind of all
It's
that
real bad.
You
you
just
can
want
really
fiber.
think
That's all you
about.
want.
Yeah.
And then otherwise, like I don't like cooking. My wife likes cooking in theory, but also has ADHD. So sometimes she's like really into it, and sometimes she's like, I'm not going
Comes
to
in
cook a thing.
waves, you know.
Yeah. So between the two of us, like it's random who cooks any given day. There's no plan ever. We both hate planning around it. So my strategy that I've evolved, especially the past like year, is like I just need stuff that's ready to cook. And so
Mhm.
that's my food planning strategy is to say I go to the grocery store. I don't care. I get stuff that's on sale and that is mostly like in the vegetables and
Mhm.
produce section. So it's like produce stuff. I also get a lot of beans, and then I just like on the Saturday get all the stuff in the house, and I just spend like 4 hours chopping things and putting them into containers, right?
So
And
you do like a meal prep kind of a.
yeah, it's like a component prep. So it's like mise en place, right? Like I
Okay,
prep
yeah.
all the components, and I'll cook some beans so that they're just also ready to go, and like have that. So then the fridge is just packed full of shit that could be thrown in
Into
a
a
pan,
pan. Mhm.
thrown in the oven. You could do. We could go fancy if we want to. We could make a soup. Or we could just be like what I usually do is I go for like because I hate making decisions about it. So my decision strategy is how colorful can I make it? Right. So like that's because you need something.
Does it
Right. So
look
then I
good?
just like, I'll take a pan and I'll just like throw in things of different colors. So it's got,
Mhm.
get my red cabbage in there, get some chickpeas just thrown in there. So
It's a good
some
mechanism,
yellow.
honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, just get something, right? So just get a bunch of colors, throw them in there, and then roast it, eat it, and I don't fucking worry about
So you
it.
kind of going for like a lot of plants and whole foods and trying to like make it so that it's easy to cook.
To whip
Yep.
up.
You know.
Yep. And then get sauces. So Old Lady sauce, which is
Not the best.
what's the Chinese name is Lao Gan Ma. The best stuff. I just put that on literally everything because you could cook it. You don't have to put salt. I mean, you should still salt it, but like if you cook something that was the blandest thing in the universe,
To put that on there
and
is
then
delicious.
throw
Mhm.
Old Lady sauce on there, then that's literally what I do. So Old Lady sauce and eel sauce.
So the blandest thing in the universe, so tofu.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because tofu, like I like the flavor of tofu, but it's not particularly strong, right? So just cover it in some stuff. So yeah, that and eel sauce are like my two go-to sauces, and I'll usually just put them both. I'll just put them both
Mhm.
on there.
Now let me ask you, Adam, have you played around with nutritional yeast?
Yes, I fucking love nutritional yeast. So I also I tend to throw nutritional yeast. It's always on my popcorn because you can't have popcorn without nutritional yeast, in my opinion.
Mm.
Sam might
Yeah,
disagree.
nutritional yeast is a weird thing that kind of has like a cheesy flavor to it. So
Yeah.
I learned that it's something that is used in a lot of vegan cooking to
Yep.
capture like a cheese flavor.
Yeah, it's just like a little bit of a because I just had chickpeas ready to go. Then I was like, oh, I saw a thing. I just saw like a YouTube short where someone was like, hey, if you just kind of like crush them and then just cover them in nutritional yeast and salt and whatever, right? And then just kind of crush them a bit and then just cook them until they're really dry. Then you get this nice like crumbly, salty, umami thing you can just snack on, which I've been snacking on all week. You know, like yeah. So my strategy is like don't really think about meals, don't really think about recipes. Just have ingredients that are ready to go and then just throw them
Slap
together.
them together.
The thing is, everything is good if it's salted and has a sauce. You know? So like
Just
it
go
doesn't
nuts.
matter what you do. Just and I'd like to roast everything. That's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
So
To
that's
the-
my strategy these
Well,
days.
I'm mostly vegan. I don't ever cook meat at home. I used to eat pounds of meat, tons of meat, in
That's
fact.
true. Yeah.
And it was about, I think in 2019, my wife was out of town and I was at the grocery store. And for some, I was like, well, it's just me. So I can make whatever garbage I
Yeah.
want. And it's just my problem if it turns out bad.
Yep.
So I just grabbed all the different like fake meat options that they had because I was like, these look interesting, you know? Just grabbed a bunch of different ones and I cooked them up and they were good. And I was like, well, then why am I like, if I don't need to be responsible for the deaths of 3 chickens per day,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe I shouldn't. Maybe that's, if that's
sure.
not necessary, then what am I doing? Like it's just kind of needlessly cruel at that point, right? Just so I can like have a slightly different texture, I guess, So, Yeah, so I kind of pivoted over to trying out like lots of different meat substitutes, which is great because also I didn't have to actually change anything about what I was eating.
Yeah.
Like I still make the same recipes and
You
still do
swap
the
the
same stuff and
ingredients.
just swap the ingredients and literally no change in lifestyle whatsoever.
Mhm.
So that for me was a big thing. And then otherwise I became lactose intolerant in my late 20s. And so once I got on the fake meat bandwagon and stopped having dairy, I was like, oh, I guess I'm vegan now because
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. That's all the animal stuff.
Mhm.
Has turned out pretty great. I'm one of the few people in my family who has great cholesterol, just
Yeah, I bet.
perfect
Yeah,
cholesterol.
mine is terrible.
Uh,
But
'cause-
I'm not vegan. I'm not vegetarian either, but I'm vegetable forward, meaning like if I can avoid having meat in a meal, then I prefer not to. And
Yeah.
I
I
think
call
we're-
myself a vegan of convenience, which
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
like if I'm out at a restaurant, if they have great meat options and not very great
Mhm.
vegetarian or vegan options, I just go with the meat option. If I'm at a barbecue, I eat the burger. It's fine. I'm I'm taking a stance for like when it works best, but I'm not being like super rigid about it.
Mhm.
Because who gives a shit really? At the end
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
day?
My stance is like I avoid eating mammals. I was like in general, and then I'll eat chicken or basically fish and poultry. I'll go for. And then, but otherwise, if I can avoid meat altogether, then I'll prefer to do
Yeah.
that. But
But I
it's-
also have like I track my nutrition. I use an app called Macro Factor, which I put on nearly every single thing that I've eaten. I have documented for about a year and a half now, and I do that largely because I think it's important to kind of keep an eye on certain high level macronutrients, like make sure that you're getting enough protein, make sure you're getting enough carbs, make sure you're getting enough fat every day. The details of that kind of who gives a shit. Like I don't really care if you're getting it from chicken or you're getting it from tofu
Right.
or whatever. But if you're only getting like 30 grams of protein per day, that over time, like that's not good. Like you got to hit some kind of a minimum threshold, and it's going to vary. It's going to vary person to person based on what it is that you're doing and stuff like that. But I found that just like for me personally, having that tracking and keeping an eye on it helps me to draw connections between how I'm feeling and how things are
Mhm.
going for me and what I'm eating. Because if I can't rely on my memory for that,
no, you absolutely cannot.
Yeah.
And my strategy is like the opposite. That was just basically to buy the ingredients that collectively make up good nutritional value, and then eat those ingredients, and then not worry about
Yeah.
the details.
And honestly, vegetables are fucking crazy because you can, like, you can get these like big salad bags, at the grocery store. I'm not talking about like the ones with like dressing in it, but literally just the vegetables, like just the salad, and like that entire bag of salad, I'm pretty sure has fewer calories than 2 Oreos.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's probably
and
not
so
like
like
because
if
it's
you're
not food, it's leaves. Leaves.
Yeah.
We can't digest leaves. It's not food, right?
So it's kind of like if you're a snacker, and you've got veggies laying around, you could just go fucking nuts on those things,
Yep.
and it does not matter.
Carrots
In fact,
and
it's
hummus.
probably good.
Yeah, any of that stuff where you can dip in like guac or hummus or
Yeah.
something like that. It's great.
make a lot of hummus. That's the other thing because
Yeah.
it's that
Hummus
batch
is great.
snack that's like basically just good for you, more or less. Right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I also I bake bread every weekend. So home baked bread. My wife is spoiled by it. She now refuses to eat store bought bread. She's like, make me some more bread.
It is hard
It's very
to
good.
go back once you
Yeah,
done that.
and I've been just kind of slowly morphing I started with a recipe that I just got off of YouTube that kind of worked, and then I just every weekend I just made it and I would tweak things until I got it right. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good bread.
It's really good.
All right, I think we got time for maybe one last question, maybe, which is, what is GameMaker's most underrated feature? This one, so I'll probably try to keep this quick because we are basically at the end of the episode,
Mhm.
and
You're the one who'd know.
I know, and it's kind of technical, probably. I'm gonna
Most underrated.
call this a feature, and I'm gonna say I fucking love this, and I know a lot of people will not.
Uh-huh.
which is I love that GameMaker is not strongly typed. By that I mean, if I want to declare a variable, let's say I say apples. I'd be like, apples equals 5. GameMaker is like, great, that's a number, all set, right? But I can also then just immediately go apples equals and then in quotes apples, and I can like put a string there. And GameMaker's like, sure, yeah, apples, that's a string now. I can
Whatever you say, bub. Yeah.
In other programming languages, you have to be hyper specific about what a thing is. So you wouldn't even say like apples equals 5. You'd be like, apples is an integer that's 5, which means
Not
it can
an
never have a
integer,
decimal.
an
Not just an
unsigned
integer.
8-bit
An
integer.
unsigned, which means it's an integer between 0 and 255, right?
Yep.
And if you ever go outside those bounds, the computer's like, oh, now we're looping back around. Or if you tried to add apples to a different number that was a different kind of integer, it would be like, it'd be like, I don't know, I can't fucking add these together. These are two different kinds.
These
of
are apples and
numbers,
oranges, man. Come on.
So,
Yep.
so for me, that was like, and the thing is, nowadays I understand the benefits of typed languages. And there are scenarios where, so every now and then I'm like, it would be kind of nice if I can like lock this down a little bit. But at the same time, man, was it easy to learn. Like because I didn't have to get caught up in the weeds of all the technical shit about how to make the programming language do what I wanted. I could if I got two things that are numbers, I could just fucking add them together. It's fine.
Yeah, and there are a domain of like technical details you can find yourself in as a consequence, but they're usually like you don't hit as frequently, and they're easier to reason about than because when you're first looking at a program, if you're dealing with like, okay, you got to know ahead of time what you're going to do to this number. Is it an integer or is it a float, right? Because you got to know what you're going to do to this number, because there's no such thing as a number. There are
computer doesn't know
various
what
kinds
There's
of
just
numbers,
bits.
right?
There's just bits, right? Computers,
Yeah.
It's just ones and zeros behind.
Yeah, and so you have to learn a lot about like those underlying principles of like what do these things mean? What does it even mean to add? Because that's actually not when you think of like, ooh, I'm gonna add two things together. If it was like two strings, you'd just be like, I'm gonna stick those two pieces of text together. If it's an integer and it's a fractional number, I'm gonna just put those together the way we do like when we're doing math on both pencil and paper. Right? But that's not how computers work. And if you have to know how they work to make a game,
it's a lot of upfront knowledge.
Yeah, you get a lot more efficiency in your compute stuff. So this is the games that are made using a strongly typed language, in theory, can be much more efficient. In practice, really depends on how you program it, right? So yeah, I'm also in that camp. I think Godot also either is not strongly typed or
Godot
lets you
uses
not.
C#, and then I think it uses JavaScript.
It's got some options. I don't know. Like Godot's doing cool stuff in Journal, but I think there's like you can like opt into strong type. There's something like that. But I'm in a similar position where, especially in because I was Python for a while, and then my whole life's JavaScript. JavaScript is also loosely typed, right? And I'm a big fan of a loosely typed language like JavaScript or GameMaker language, but I hate the developer experience of a loosely typed language, by which I mean the tools you're using to program, because you can do anything, they don't know what you're doing. They cannot help you. Right?
You're when you start typing, the IDE, the development environment, can't pop up and be like, I know what you're about to do. Let me help you and give you some suggestions, because it's like, I don't fucking know, man. Like,
doesn't know what you're gonna do.
It's the Wild West. It's the Wild West.
Do anything.
Yeah.
And like in GameMaker, you can't just add like a string or number, because that doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
So you can't, but you don't necessarily know that you've done that, because it could be that the thing that you thought was a number became a string at something like. So it can get out of hand really. And this is why people love strongly typed languages, because they don't get out of hand.
Skill issue, honestly. I don't know.
Well, but it's also a tooling issue, right? So this is why I love TypeScript in the JavaScript world, is for that same reason, which is TypeScript gives you the benefits of a loosely typed, because you can change the type at any moment, right? Because like the type isn't real, it's imaginary, right? But so it gives you the benefits of a strongly typed language in the tooling, where the tools can be like, yeah, I know this is supposed to be, hey, this looks like a mistake, hey, this definitely is a mistake.
Yeah. You said this was a string, you said this was a number, now you're trying to add them together.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any
Quit
sense.
doing
You
that, right?
can still do it. You can still try it. I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah.
Maybe don't.
But especially for stuff, for even like questions of like what variables exist and stuff, because like in GameMaker, that's where I start to like really struggle with the absence of that kind of support. is you have to keep track of so much stuff in your brain. And if you make a typo, like typing a variable name, it doesn't
be
know that
variable
you
now.
did that,
Yep.
right? It can't like it.
Well, yeah, you gotta, for game makers, kind of, I feel like it's easy to get started and learn it.
Yeah.
To maintain a much larger project in GameMaker does require more discipline as a consequence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
And this is also why I made Stitch for VS Code, was so that because I needed, I was trying to program a GameMaker at some point. I was like, I'm so spoiled rotten by TypeScript and all the cool stuff it helps you do. And GameMaker has a system kind of like that called Feather, right? It kind of helps you like guess what types things, but because it's also loosey goosey, it doesn't know for sure, and you can help it, but also it just doesn't work very well. And so I was like, okay,
yeah, when I boot up any of our projects in GameMaker, Feather comes in and it's like, I've detected 32,000 warnings, 5,000 errors, and 6. I'm like, nah, it's fine. Like, you just don't know what you're talking about.
And
Feather.
Stitch will also tell you that. It'll tell you, but it doesn't have quite as many because it can infer some more things than Feather can, right? Yeah. But it's like so if you look at like my code in GameMaker versus Seth's code in GameMaker, my code is very type forward. It's like I document everything's type. I do it all so that it's all like analyzable, so that I can get help, because the Wild West side of that, like I can't. I'm too old now.
I've been kind of moving more in that direction over time.
Every developer does, is you start loving the Wild West of loosely typed stuff, and over time you're like, I really wish I knew what the fuck was going on here. You know?
At the beginning you're like, I just want to be free. I want to just do stuff, and then later you're like, I'm tired. I've done so many things.
It's time to settle down.
I can't keep track of all the things I've done.
But I think ultimately, though, to me, that's the
confused.
key of like these comment. It's called a comment-based type system, because the types aren't real. It's just you telling your tools like how to better support.
Yeah, you write a comment above the variable, and you like pretend like this is
a string,
an array,
and then the tool knows to like give you warnings if you're deviating from that, right? And so to me, that's why I love those, because you
can get so much where you want it, because you'd be like, oh yeah, this is a variable that I need to use a lot or keep track of. I'll make sure that I comment that and add that little extra notation so that the IDE gives me the help that I need. Yeah, but if you're just like right in line and you're like, all right, I'm going to be like, apples equals 5. I'm going to add that and I'm done with it. And I'm never going to use that variable outside of this context. I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to add another extra bunch of work and make a type for that thing or whatever.
Yeah, but even if you did annotate all of it, I think the difference is still useful, because like I would still, even though I love, like I'll only write code in TypeScript, and I type everything. Nothing is unknown. Like I've gone all the way into that. But if you told me like, hey, you need to go use C++ to do something, I'd be like, fuck no, I will not. I'm going to stick to my.
There's a certain amount of how much you have to dictate the types of things. This starts to get to be.
But it's not about the dictating of types. It's about the loss of flexibility. Right. Because
fair.
in TypeScript, I can say this thing is either a string or a number or zero or like a null or this object or a ref. I can say it's any of these things. And later on, I can be like, actually, never mind. Now it can only be a few of these things or whatever. Right.
Right.
Like, so I have the flexibility that you get with JavaScript or with any.
But with the knowability.
But with the knowability of types. And so that's why, to me, I'm like, no on strongly typed systems still. Yes, on strongly typed documentation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I agree with
you're saying Stitch for VS Code allows for that in GameMaker.
Yes.
So if we do have any GameMaker developers listening and you want to try that out, we do have an extension that Adam made for VS Code that lets you code in GameMaker projects in VS Code. That allows
it's of course not nearly as feature rich as TypeScript, because I'm not Microsoft, so I can't do that. But it gets you the core things that help out just enormously, keeping track of what is this thing? Oh, like because if you have a typo and like a variable that you write, like Stitch knows, because it's like, I've never seen this before, and you're using it as if I've seen it before, right? And so you can. It's just the number of mistakes I get to not have by having that kind of tooling is so good. But again, if I had to choose between strongly typed and loosely typed with like type documentation, I would every time loosely typed. If I had to choose between strongly typed and loosely typed with no way to document what's going on, I would actually choose strongly typed. At this point in my life, as an old man.
Fortunately, you never have to make that choice.
Exactly. I never have to.
Yep. So that's my killer feature of GameMaker. Is just
I agree.
GML is a great language. I love it. It's fun to use. So that's all the time we have for this week. We'd like to thank our producers, Fat Bard and Sampa DeCoster, for putting the podcast together. And thanks to our community moderators who keep our Discord running. To get more involved in the Butterscotch community, just go to podcast.bscotch.net, where we have links to the Discord, a way for you to donate to support the podcast, and links to the archives. And of course, if you haven't yet, head on over to Steam, pick up the demo of How Many Dudes. It now has language support and all kinds of cool new features because we recently put out an update. So have fun with that. We appreciate it. And thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.